Captain America was never frozen. He lived a second life, one no Avenger was meant to know. Wolverine found it buried beneath redacted files and HYDRA blood. What he saw changed everything. Cap fought for something darker, long before the shield ever shined. And now that truth is rising again. Wolverine made a choice: erase Steve Rogers or erase the past. But what if Steve remembered first? The snow cracked under Wolverine's boots as he trudged through the frozen wilderness of northern Alaska. The storm howled behind him like ghosts trying to warn him off, but Logan had never listened to ghosts. In his hand was a rusted, jagged data chip, one that shouldn't exist, and one that had led him here. SHIELD said this outpost was decommissioned. HYDRA files claimed it was never built. But Logan had traced back a shadow signal, hidden beneath 5 layers of encryption, buried under fake coordinates in a World War II mission log. The signature? Rogers. S. He found the door frozen shut, a black slab under 2 feet of ice. Adamantium claws made quick work of it. The heavy steel groaned as it gave way, revealing darkness and a scent he hadn't smelled in decades. Sterilized death. He stepped inside. Lights flickered, 1970s analog tech humming weakly. A broken projector screen. Old file cabinets. Bloodstains on a chair's armrests. Dust hadn't settled here. This place had been cleaned carefully. And yet, someone left one thing behind. A single black and white photograph, pinned under shattered glass. Steve Rogers, Captain America, standing beside a man wearing a HYDRA armband, smiling. The photo was dated March 12, 1973. Logan's hand clenched. Steve wasn't supposed to be alive in '73. The official record said he was frozen from 1945 until they found him in 2011. The world believed that. Hell, even Steve believed that. But this photo didn't lie. A sudden roar, not from outside, but within him, pushed Logan deeper into the compound. He followed a trail of magnetic storage disks labeled in red. Project Glass Captain. Another drawer held medical reports, each tagged with the same initials, SR. One file was titled Reintegration Protocol Version 4.4. Logan opened it. Subject appears calm post-deployment. Partial memory removal successful. Secondary consciousness remains stable. Mission directive: eliminate target. Preserve belief of righteousness. He scanned faster. His healing factor kept his mind sharp, but what he was reading still twisted his gut. Rogers had been thawed, not once, but many times. Sent into the world for single-target eliminations, then put back under. His memories wiped clean each time. They didn't freeze him to save him. They froze him to reset him. Logan found an old cassette recorder. He hit play. A man's voice, calm, American, unmistakable, broke the silence. "This is Steve Rogers. If I'm hearing this, then I've done it again. And I don't want to remember." Logan slammed the recorder down. Back in the 1940s, Steve was the heart of the war, the moral compass, the soldier who punched Hitler. But in the 70s, he was a weapon, pointed at enemies no one was supposed to know about. Logan found a final folder. Inside was a note, handwritten in faded ink. "Forgive me if I forget. I was told it was for peace. I wanted to believe them." He stared at the paper for a long time, then shoved everything into a satchel. There were still names to find, still people who knew. Wolverine lit the place on fire behind him. By the time he reached New Mexico, he tracked down one of them. Name: Jack Vaughn, ex-Black Ops, now dying in a rundown care home. The man was nearly blind, coughing blood, but when Logan whispered Project Glass Captain, he sat bolt upright. "They made us think he volunteered," Vaughn rasped. "Said he wanted to clean up what the government couldn't. They made him believe he was hunting HYDRA, but the targets weren't HYDRA. Then what were they? Whistleblowers, scientists, people who saw too much." Logan's voice was iron. "And what did you do, Jack?" "I watched a hero get broken and build again. Over and over. They'd thaw him out, show him lies, let him save people, then wipe it all. Why? Because a myth is stronger than a man. They couldn't let him die, so they used him, controlled him. Why didn't anyone stop it? Nick Fury tried once. That year's missing from the archives. They buried him too. You think Hydra died in 1945? Hell no. They just changed names. Jack coughed until blood soaked his shirt. We're all ghosts now. But you still got claws. Logan didn't reply. He left the man a bottle of scotch and a loaded gun. That night, Logan broke into an off-grid storage vault Fury once owned. Hidden behind biometric scanners and EMP lock walls, he found it. A sealed memory core labeled Echo Rogers, AUTH only. It was protected by one genetic key, Steve Rogers' living DNA. Logan stared at the blinking lights. This thing held the truth. Every memory Steve lost, every life taken, every fake mission, every erased scream. Only Steve could open it, or destroy it. The next morning, Logan was already heading east. The mansion was quiet, just the sound of wind brushing against old stone. Inside, Logan stood in the war room of the X-Mansion, surrounded by silence and shadows. He needed a mind he could trust, someone who could see memory, not just read it. Charles Xavier sat calmly in his hoverchair, fingers steepled beneath his chin. He studied Logan, not with suspicion, but with deep concern. "You're not here for help," Charles said softly. "You're here to ask permission to destroy something." Logan dropped the core on the table. It shimmered with soft blue pulses, alive, locked, dangerous. "What's inside could collapse everything," Logan said. "Captain America's real past, the erased missions, the blacked-out operations. They turned him into a killer, Chuck. He just doesn't remember it." Charles reached for the device, but stopped short of touching it. "Does he know you have this? He doesn't even remember half of it. And you believe that's mercy?" Logan's jaw tightened. "I believe it's survival. You think the world needs another scandal? Another Avenger dragged through the dirt? If the world sees what Steve did, what they made him do, it won't just break Steve. It'll break everything he fought to build." Charles nodded slowly, then looked at the core again. "You're not wrong. But the truth buried is a wound that never heals. You're carrying it now, and it's tearing you apart. I've been torn apart before." Logan turned, cloak swaying, and left without another word. The next day, he arrived in upstate New York. Steve Rogers was alone, training in silence on a private field behind the compound. He moved like a man trying to escape his own body. Each punch, each roll, each step precise, measured, controlled. Logan waited until he was close enough that Steve could feel him before he spoke. "I need a favor." Steve turned slowly, sweat dripping down his jaw. "You usually show up when you're about to cut something in half." Logan pulled out the photo, the one from 1973, black and white, undeniable. Steve took it, stared at it, and didn't move. "That's not me," he said, but the words lacked conviction. Logan handed him a second paper, his own handwriting. "Forgive me if I forget." Steve's face went pale. I don't remember this." Logan's voice lowered. "No, but you wrote it, and I've got the core to prove everything they buried inside you." Steve's eyes filled with something rare, fear. Not of death, not of pain, but of unraveling, of becoming something he couldn't understand. "Where did you get this?" he asked. "Hydra didn't just fall. They adapted. The ops you ran, they were behind them, and they erased you every time." Steve turned away, running a hand through his hair. "No, that's not possible. I was in the ice. Not the whole time." Steve dropped the photo. "You expect me to believe I was a mindless weapon?" Logan growled. "You're not mindless. That's the worst part. You believed in it. You believed you were saving lives, because that's what they made you think." Steve's fist clenched. "Then give me the core. I'll open it. I'll face it." But Logan didn't move. "You sure that's a good idea? I won't run from who I was. Even if it breaks you?" Steve's gaze was steel. Even then, the two men stood in a quiet standoff, soldier and survivor, myth and memory. And then Logan handed him the core. It unlocked with a faint pulse, then bloomed open like a digital flower. Images poured out, holograms of missions, debriefs, target files, execution orders. Steve's face in each one. Cold, controlled, and deadly. Steve fell to his knees. No, this isn't me. But it was. He saw himself choke a scientist in Prague, burn down a safe house in Brazil, eliminate a journalist in Syria. Each memory stabbed deeper than any bullet ever could. He dropped the device. They used me. I let them. You didn't know. That's no excuse. Steve stood up slowly. His voice cracked. Then maybe I don't deserve the shield. Logan stayed silent. Steve stared off into the distance, eyes wet, fists trembling. I have to come clean. I have to tell the world. Logan stepped forward, hard. If you do that, you destroy more than your name. The people still believe in you. They believe in what you represent. They deserve the truth. They deserve hope. Steve shook his head. No, they deserve honesty. And what about the enemies watching? The ones who'd love to tear us apart the moment they smell weakness. Steve turned to him, pain and clarity in his eyes. I became the thing I swore to fight. And now you're the man trying to make it right, Logan said. Steve collapsed onto a bench, staring at the broken memories still glowing in front of him. What would you do? He asked. Logan didn't hesitate. I'd erase it. Let you live the life you chose, not the one they forced on you. And if I say no, I walk away. But the world doesn't. Steve closed his eyes, then opened them again, burning with resolve. Take it, hide it, burn it. Whatever you think is right. I don't trust myself right now. Logan nodded and picked up the core. But deep in his gut, something still twisted. This wasn't over, not even close. The core was silent now. No more flickers. No more memories playing like war crimes in HD. Logan locked it back inside a reinforced case and tightened the steel grip until his hand trembled. He didn't tremble often. Not unless something was wrong. He thought it was over. Thought Steve would let it go. But Steve Rogers didn't bury pain. He carried it. The kind of man who could take a bullet without flinching, but not a secret. Not this deep. And that's what scared Logan most. Back at the Avengers facility, Steve was alone in the gym at 3 a.m. The punching bag was already shredded. His knuckles were raw, blood soaking into the floor mat. He kept seeing their faces. The victims from the memory core. Not enemies, not threats, just people. Each one smiling in a photo, then lifeless in the next frame. Killed by his hand, or someone wearing his face. He'd memorized their names. He didn't deserve to forget. He took out his comm link and keyed in a secure code. Tony, wake up. Tony Stark answered half asleep. Tell me it's Ultron again, and not you having another identity crisis. I need a secure trace. I'm looking for a woman named Lila Renz. She was a SHIELD psychologist in the 70s. Supposedly died in a car explosion. Tony was quiet now, fully awake. You're digging into ghost files. What for? Because I used to work with her. Tony blinked. That's not possible. She trained me, helped program me, and she's not dead. Cap. Steve cut him off. Just find her. 2 hours later, Steve had coordinates. Logan was waiting at the hangar when Steve arrived, fully suited, shield on his back. Don't do this, Logan growled. I'm not asking permission. You think hunting down the people who used you is gonna make it better? Steve looked at him, eyes dark. No, but it's the only thing I know how to do. The two took off in silence, jet humming low as it sliced across the clouds toward an abandoned psychiatric research site hidden in the Nevada desert. According to the old SHIELD files, it never existed. But the satellite photos said otherwise. Buildings still stood. Faint heat signatures. Power running off an underground generator. She was alive, and Steve needed answers. The door was unlocked when they arrived. Inside, the walls were lined with soundproof panels. Old data cores still blinked, running backup loops. Files floated in dusty air. And in the center of it all, stood a woman in her 70s, calm, sharp, and expecting them. Steve, she said softly. You remember now. Steve didn't speak. She turned to Logan. And you brought him here, even after what you saw. I brought him here, Logan growled, because if I didn't, he'd come alone and get himself killed. Dr. Lila Renz stepped forward, her hands folded. "We didn't want to hurt you. We wanted to save you." Steve's voice was ice. "By turning me into a weapon, you were dying, Steve. Your body survived the ice. Your mind didn't. You had fractures, splinters. You begged us to fix it, to make it right." Steve stepped closer. "And how many people died while you made it right?" Her eyes didn't flinch. 53. You killed 53 confirmed targets during your operations from 1968 to 1980. But you also saved hundreds. You stopped rogue cells, prevented underground wars. You kept the peace. Don't dress it up. It wasn't dressing it up. It was giving you a purpose. And when the time came to retire the program, you asked us to wipe it. You didn't want to live with it. Steve turned away. The room felt smaller, his shield heavier. "You took my life," he whispered. "You carved it up and stitched it into a myth." "You chose that myth," she said, "because the truth would have killed you. Maybe I should have let it." Logan stepped in, voice harder now. "So why hide? If you believed in what you did, why fake your death?" "I didn't fake anything," she replied. "I left because I knew this day would come. I knew the cracks would open again." Steve stared at her like she was a stranger, and she was. And yet she'd held his mind in her hands for years. He could feel it now, her voice echoing in distant corners of memory. A boy in a chair, a screen flashing red. "Say the words, soldier. Say it and we'll give you peace." And he had said them. "Delete me," he whispered. "Delete all of me." He stumbled back. Logan caught him before he fell. "I thought I was strong enough to carry this," Steve said. "You are," Logan answered, "but not alone." Behind them, Renz turned to a wall safe and pulled out a second core. "This one smaller, darker. This one was never uploaded," she said. "The worst of it. You wanted it locked away in case you ever tried to undo the others." Steve stared. She placed it in his hand. "It's yours now." He looked at Logan, and for the first time, he hesitated. "Maybe the world doesn't need to know." Logan nodded slowly. "But you do." Steve pocketed the core. No one spoke on the flight back. But in his quarters that night, Steve stared at the core long after the lights were off, long after the world believed he was sleeping. And he whispered just loud enough for the shadows to hear, "I forgive you, but I won't forget again." The next morning, Steve Rogers walked into the Avengers compound with the weight of the past digging into his spine. He didn't tell anyone where he'd been, didn't explain the quiet change in his eyes. But Natasha noticed, and so did Wanda. Wanda approached him during training. Her voice was soft but direct. "You're hiding something, Steve. I can feel it." He didn't deny it, just nodded once. "Then make peace with it," she said. "Because if you don't, it'll find another way out." Logan watched from the observation deck. He knew the look in Steve's eyes, the same one soldiers wore before walking into a war they didn't plan to survive. Later that day, Steve met him in the garage, just the two of them. "I'm going back to Fury's vault," Steve said. "You already have the truth. I need to see the rest. All of it." Logan crossed his arms. "You sure?" "No, but I'm not running." Logan handed him the encrypted keycard. "No turning back after this." "I know." They flew silent. No music, no words, just tension, thick and choking, between two men too old for second chances and too scarred to pretend otherwise. The vault opened with a hiss. The core still sat inside, untouched since Logan locked it down. But the moment Steve stepped near it, the lights around them dimmed. His hand hovered over the surface, and then a whisper, "Authorization Rogers S." The core bloomed open, a flicker of red, and then the worst memory of all. Steve, younger, expressionless, standing over a child. The target was no older than 9, a telepath, classified as uncontrolled threat. Steve's hands trembled in the footage. He refused the order, tried to stop the strike, but someone else pulled the trigger. The child's eyes never looked away from Steve. "Captain," he whispered as he died. "Help me." The memory stopped. Steve collapsed to his knees. "They made me watch, so I'd remember what happened to heroes who disobeyed." Logan said nothing. Steve stood up slowly, shield strapped to his back like a coffin. I can't erase that. No one's asking you to. I'm asking myself. Steve stared at the vault, then at Logan. I want you to destroy it. You sure? I don't want the world to know this version of me. Let them believe in something better. Logan took the core, held it tight, then, with a single claw, sliced it in half. Sparks flew. Lights dimmed. The memory was gone, but not from Steve. Never from Steve. They walked out together, not as Captain America and Wolverine, but as two men who knew too much and chose silence over chaos. Outside, the sun was rising, but the shadows, they followed them both. Weeks passed. The world kept spinning. Missions continued. Avengers assembled and disassembled like pieces in a machine that no longer creaked. But beneath the surface, something was different. Steve Rogers stood taller, but quieter. He led with more conviction, but spoke fewer words. His orders were sharper, his silences heavier. And Logan watched him like a man waiting for a dam to crack. One evening, Steve stood in the Avengers Hall of Honor, staring at the glass display where his original shield hung. Not the one he carried now, the original. The clean symbol of a man the world still believed was perfect. Tony walked up behind him, contemplating a rebrand. Captain Complicated has a nice ring to it. Steve didn't laugh. I used to think the shield meant hope, he said. Now I wonder if it just meant control. Tony shrugged. Symbols don't lie, Steve. People do. Steve turned. Would you still trust me if you knew I was made to forget the worst things I did? Tony didn't flinch. We've all been used. We've all been broken. But not all of us chose to fix ourselves. Steve looked back at the shield. I didn't fix anything. I just buried it. Tony leaned in, voice lower. Then bury it deep. Or dig it up. Just don't stand in the middle. Steve didn't answer. He turned and walked away from the shield. That night, Wolverine waited at Xavier's mansion, the same spot he had visited weeks ago. But this time, he brought no core. No files. Just a question. Did I do the right thing? He asked Charles. You chose to protect someone from being defined by what they were forced to become, Xavier said. Whether that's right or wrong, it's rare. Logan lit a cigar, then let it burn in his hand. But I still see that kid's face. So does Steve. A pause. Then Charles added, and that might be what keeps him from ever becoming that man again. Meanwhile, Steve stood in front of a camera. No press, no audience, just a private transmission line. He recorded something not for the world, but for the future. For the record, he said slowly, Captain America was never perfect. I wasn't just the product of a serum. I was the result of decisions made in darkness. Some were mine, some weren't. But I own them now. He stared at the lens. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm making sure that if I forget again, someone remembers for me. He saved the message under one word, truth. Locked it behind retinal scan and buried it in a Stark secured server that even S.H.I.E.L.D. couldn't access. It wasn't for now. It wasn't for public eyes. It was for the day someone tried to rewrite history again. Later that week, as the Avengers prepped for another off-world mission, Steve and Logan stood side by side on the launch pad. You still carrying it? Logan asked. Steve tapped his chest once. Always. You ever gonna let it go? Never. Good. As the jet doors closed, Logan glanced once more at the horizon and saw something behind them neither could shake. The past was dead, but it wasn't done. And somewhere out there, someone else still remembered everything Steve Rogers forgot. And they were waiting.